everyone. Hope you had a good day. Today is Friday, March 4th, I believe. And I hope you had a wonderful day. It's Friday evening, so happy Sabbath. So today in the book, City Bear's Adventures, we are in chapter 7, Secret Threat to the Cub. So let's see what happens. DJ ran back to the picnic as fast as Coco could follow. The boy saw the circle of townspeople and knew, from the angry voice of his father who was in the center of that ring. DJ pushed his way through the crowd. Most dropped back automatically when they saw the cub. DJ groaned when he reached the inner circle. He thought, "Oh no, why does father always have to be mad at everybody? Lord, why can't you touch his heart and change him?" A uniformed deputy sheriff was standing between Sam Dillon and Paul Stagg. The deputy held his black battalion in his right hand, the hand resting lightly in his left. "Now, Mr. Dillon, I'm only going to say this one more time. Go home quietly now." DJ rushed up and grabbed his father's shirt sleeve. The boy whispered, "Let's go home, Dad, please." For a moment, his dad hesitated. Then he said softly to the deputy, "Can I have a minute with Hannah Higgins?" The officer knew everyone in the small community. He turned to look at the widow. She bit her lower lip thoughtfully and then nodded briefly. The deputy stepped aside and raised his voice. "All right, folks, go back to your picnic. Give these people a little privacy." The people moved away as Dad glowered at Paul Stagg, so he's kind of looking at him mean, staring. Dad walked over to Mrs. Higgins, who bent and spoke softly to her daughter. Pris moved back uncertainly. DJ stood where he was, keeping the cub's chain short so the bear was forced against the boy's knee. Paul Stagg bent over. "DJ, I'm powerful sorry for all of this. It's not your fault. Dad always fights with everybody. He's been worse lately." The big man sat down on a redwood picnic bench and motioned for the boy to sit next to him, kind of patted next to where he was. "Come on over here." DJ glanced at his father. He was talking quietly to Mrs. Higgins while the deputy stood nearby. DJ asked, "Why can't my dad be like other fathers, like Alfred's, for instance?" "I can't rightly answer that, DJ. A child's world should be fun, with people who are always nice. But in the real world, kids sometimes get parents who drink, beat their wives or children, and do other terrible things. That's the way it is. But I take comfort in the thought that it'll someday come out all right, especially for us believers. Do you know Romans 8:28? Boy shook his head. The lay pastor reached into his right hip pocket of his blue jeans and produced a well-used pocket New Testament. He thumbed to the passage with obvious ease. "It is one of the most comforting verses in the Bible," Paul Stagg rumbled in his deep bass voice. The Apostle Paul wrote, "And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose." The boy thought about that. "I love God. At least I try. But Dad's getting worse and he makes me, well, ashamed and sorry and all sorts of things." "Of course you love the Lord, DJ. And remember, Jesus changed your grandfather too." Adjust this just a little lower. That's what Mom used to say. but I don't see it happening. Oh, it says the Lord can change your father too. That's what Mom used to say, but I don't see it happening. We've got to keep praying and believing. The boy absently reached down and scratched the cub's chest, scratching him. Kind of like you do a dog or a cat, and they like that, especially dogs. Coco laid on his back and raised his feet in the air. He closed his eyes and seemed to really be enjoying the boy's gentle scratching. Maybe it's the second part of that verse where I'm messing up, the boy mused. I mean, where it says those who are called according to his purpose. Do you doubt that you're called according to his purpose, DJ? I don't know what my purpose is, except someday write books and things. But I'm probably supposed to be doing something right now, and I'm not doing it. So it's probably my fault. What is? The big man rumbled. The boy hesitated before answering. Except for Alfred and Grandpa, DJ hadn't told anyone about his being afraid to witness to his dad. Well, DJ said with a little sigh, I know I should tell everyone about giving my life to Jesus, but I'm afraid of what Dad would say or do, and I haven't said anything except for to Grandpa. We read the Bible together, but only when Dad's not around. Are you feeling guilty? The boy nodded. He stopped scratching the cub. Coco opened his eyes and reached up to push his nose against the boy's hand. My dogs do that. And that means keep petting me. DJ's fingers moved again. I guess a lot. Believers shouldn't feel guilty. You should ask the Lord to forgive you for not speaking up as his witness. Then pray the Lord will give you the courage to be a good witness to your father and everybody else. DJ thought of Nell's Abbess. DJ could already imagine the jeers and laughter if he told Nels about the commitment he had made. The boy swallowed hard and glanced at his father. Dad was still talking to Mrs. Higgins. She was facing DJ, but looking up at Sam Dillon's face. Dad's voice was so low the boy couldn't hear what he was saying. That meant Dad's anger was probably gone. The boy lowered his head at the preacher's deep voice began a fervent prayer about DJ's problem. When Paul finished, DJ opened his eyes. Dad was standing beside him. Instinctively, the boy stepped back, half expecting his dad to smack him. Instead, his dad asked, DJ, you too? For a moment, the boy hesitated, fighting the fear that surged through his body. Then he nodded. I gave my life to Jesus when old Satchelfoot was climbing that tree after me, but I've been afraid to tell you. Dad was surprisingly calm. DJ saw Mrs. Higgins was standing where Dad had left her. The deputy was close by. Dad said softly, I don't want you to be afraid of me, son. I want you to love me. DJ looked up and thought he saw tears in his father's eyes. DJ dropped the cub's chain and threw his arms around his father's waist. The boy laid his head against his dad's powerful chest. Oh, Dad, I do love you. For a moment, the man's arms circled and stopped in midair. Then they slowly closed around the boy. Dad didn't say anything more, but he squeezed so hard the boy thought every one of his ribs were going to be broken. Wow, his dad was powerful strong. Dad finally spoke. His voice was trembly. Paul, I'm sorry." The big man's voice rumbled from deep in his chest. "No apology necessary, Sam." "Thanks," Dad said. "Let's go home, son." On the drive into the country, DJ stared out the pickup window thinking, Dad had twice called him son. Dad had hugged him. He had done that right after the boy confessed to giving his life to the Lord. That was exactly 100% different from what DJ had expected. Maybe the tall lay preacher was right, and God did make all things work together for good. But DJ still had to tell Nels Abbess. He cringed, imagining the older boy laughing and his jeered reaction. DJ wasn't ready to do that yet. Dad eased the pickup off the paved road and gently entered the creek below the house. "I've been wanting to talk to you about something, DJ." The boy looked up at his father. His face was softer than DJ had seen in a long time. Usually Dad's face was dark with anger. "I've been thinking about getting married. I need you to know how I feel, son." DJ swallowed hard. He didn't want to say anything. The pain of having another woman act as his mother hurt too much. It was worse because Priscilla. Dad spoke softly, shifting the pickup into second gear as the rear wheels cleared the creek and climbed up the hill. "It may not happen because Hannah says she won't marry unless I become a Christian too." DJ didn't say anything. He rubbed his shoe sole slowly and gently against the cub which rested on the floorboard. Dad spoke again. "Hannah told me today the same thing she did that night I took you with me when we first heard about the possible strike. She says I can't change through willpower alone, or if I did, it would only be for a while. She says I've got to be cleaned up completely, and no man can do that for himself. She wanted me to start going to church, but I won't do that." DJ wanted to ask why not, but he kept quiet. His father continued, "I blamed the preacher for her talking like that, but Hannah said he had nothing to do with it. It was her decision. I guess she's right, though I thought I'd feel better if I hit that big horse a couple good licks." Now by horse, he meant that big man. The boy knew from long experience that he could get smacked in the mouth next if he said anything his father didn't like. But DJ had to say it. Excuse me. "Pa Stagg is a mighty nice person." Dad looked down at his son and nodded. "I know, but that still doesn't make me feel any better. And I don't know that I can change. But if I could, and Hannah married me, how would you feel?" The boy licked his lips before answering, "I wouldn't like it much." Dad nodded, but didn't say anything. He shifted gears again and drove in silence to the house. Grandpa was rocking on the front porch. He hadn't been feeling well that morning, so he had stayed home from the picnic. DJ watched the old red rocker's gentle, even movements. Grandpa was learning not to get mad when he was alone or when things bothered him. Dad spoke up again as he and DJ climbed down from the pickup. "We don't need those hounds anymore. I'm taking them all to Boot Maloney and trade them off." Sudden fear speared the boy's house. Not Hero. Tad shook his head. Not your mutt, he said. DJ led the cub by the broken chain towards the house. Feeling such a relief, the boy's heart seemed about to fly off like a kite in the March wind. Dad walked beside him. We'll say no more about marrying. The next day, DJ rode with his father to the trader's ramshackled place to trade the hounds. Bootleg Maloney's innocent brown eyes roamed over the bear hunting dogs he'd sold to Dad some months ago. I don't know, Sam, Boot began, squatting on his boot heels in the dust by the old red barn. You must run them there powerfully hard. Dad's voice instantly showed his hair-triggered temper. Why, you ornery old reprobate. You know I didn't run those hounds half as hard as the guy who sold them to you before you swapped them to me. You're just trying to squeeze out of me a fair deal. Me out of a fair deal. DJ slowly sucked in his breath. Mrs. Higgins was right. Dad couldn't change himself. He was still contrary and mean-tempered inside. Boot Maloney took a plug of chewing tobacco from the hip pocket of his bib overalls. Chaw? He asked Dad. Now that means he was offering him a piece of the chewing tobacco. Gross. Dad, don't go to trying to change the subject with me, Boots Maloney, Dad said. Just being sociable, Sam. Just being sociable. Well, tell me what. You throw in that there bear cub and I just might make you a real good deal. DJ had been leaning in the shade of the barn, but the words brought him to his feet. Coco's not for sale, and neither is the hair-pulling bear dog. Make you a powerful good trade, DJ. The boy shook his head. No, thanks. Dad finally traded the hounds off, including the pups that Coco had slept with when he had first been captured. On the drive back home, DJ asked, Dad, why do you suppose Boot Maloney tried so hard to get me to give up the cub? Don't rightly know, but you can be sure that sharp old coot of a trader knows something that nobody else does. Seems it has something to do with that bear. Now, if I was you, I'd keep a sharp eye out there on your bear cub. The words cut through DJ's insides like a buzzsaw through pine. Now that would be a special type of saw that cuts logs into lumber. You don't think he'd do anything to Coco? Wouldn't harm the cub, that's for sure. There's no money in that. So Boot Malone's got something else up his sleeve. Like what? Hard to say, but it means money to him. The way he tried to swap your cub shows somebody wants him mighty bad. You mean Nels Abbas? Don't think so. That kid's just a bully, and he'll bluster and threaten and take from him who's littler than him. No, I guess Boot has an adult in mind who's looking for the cub. Maybe the movie people who are coming to shoot the picture next spring. They got their own bear. Besides, they always get new ones from regular suppliers in Southern California. No, DJ, there's somebody else around who wants that bear cub. And the way Boot acted, the price is right. Somebody wants a pet bear mighty bad. You watch out for yours." "I will," DJ exclaimed, feeling the hot fear race through his blood. "I will." School would start the next week, and both Coco and Hero would be home alone except for Grandpa. Suddenly, DJ was very afraid of what might happen to his little cub while he was at school. So that's the end of chapter 7. So I wonder who it is that's wanting that bear cub so bad. Well, tomorrow we'll be reading chapter 8, and the title of that story is An Opportunity and a Mystery. Wonder what that means. Well, I guess we'll have to find out tomorrow. So, I'm putting the book up. I just want to wish you a wonderful day or night, depending when you're reading this or listening to this. And I want to also say I love you. But even more importantly, God loves you, and He always will. So, I'll be reading to you again tomorrow. Good night.